This is Ed in San Diego, and today is September 6th, I think, or is it 7? What day is today?
Seventh.
Yeah, so the world is spinning faster. So thank you for being on the program, Stephen Howard. So I'm in San Diego, and Stephen, you're in Mexico City. What elevation are you at?
We're a little over a mile high. I think we're close to 6,500 feet,
Yeah.
something like that.
So do you feel it? Breathing or walking or
Yeah,
running?
when I go away for a week or more and I come back, yeah, the first couple of days do take some adjusting to, without a doubt. The air is obviously thinner, and particularly as you say, when you're out walking around, it makes a difference.
Yeah. So what part of town are you in
Ah,
that
I'm
you want to talk about?
I'm in one of the outer suburbs of Mexico City. I mean, I can actually see it's a city, part of the city from here. I mean, it is a city of 23 million. So I
Yeah.
don't know. It doesn't matter where you are, you're going to see, I think, part of the city. I can see some of the high rises from my balcony, but yeah, we're on the outskirts, which is nice because our traffic where I live is not as bad as Mexico City, which is probably the only single negative about Mexico City these days is the traffic can be a bear cat, as they say.
Yeah. Okay. Well, this is really interesting. So we're here to talk about your new book, Humony, Humony, and it's about, of course, corporate management. Um, and please tell me if I'm saying something wrong here. Stephen Howard, can you hold up that book cover, please?
Oh, as an author, we always love to hold up our book cover. So there you go. There you'll see the
And,
head, the two brains melding, and try and get the center. There's the
yeah.
title.
Okay. The tag is mindsets, skills, and behaviors for being a successful business people
No,
centric.
people. Yeah, people-centric leader. So
People
it's probably,
centric
yeah.
means what? Focused on people.
Focus on people. Yeah, the philosophy of the book is leaders need to put people first, and that doesn't mean people over profits or people over results. It just means people first, or people plus profits is really the concept of the book. But we have to look at the people are first, without a doubt.
One of the hot topics in media this morning, scanning media, I was up early and looking at the world's press, is how do you manage people who don't want to be managed? They are remote, not in the office.
Well, I would suggest nobody wants to be managed, quite frankly. I would argue that managing people is a 1980s construct. Yeah, it's no longer applicable. It's no longer relevant in today's world. It's why people join organizations or people join companies and they leave bosses, quite frankly, and because bosses try to manage them. Nobody wakes up in the morning and says, "I got to go to work today and be managed," or even worse, "I want to be micromanaged today. I can't wait." So U.S. Vice Admiral Grace Murray Hopper had a great phrase many, many years ago. It says, "You manage things, you lead people." And that has become the focus of the book, my own personal leadership philosophy. I mean, you manage people, you manage processes, you manage policies, you manage projects, but you lead people. And that mindset is a whole different mindset than managing people.
So let me ask you a question somewhat related to what you just said, but I'm noticing for the first time my shadow, my avatar behind me. Can you see that?
A little bit, yeah,
It's following me around here,
yeah.
and
It's in
can't figure
between
out how to get rid of it.
between you and your giraffe, I guess. That looks like a giraffe on stacked on top of your books there. That's a heck of a reading list you got there, Ed.
I ought to spend more time reading it. So anyway, I got one of these Amazon Kindles, and I get these books on it, and I haven't opened it. I just love holding the paper thing,
Yeah.
sitting in the chair, glass of wine, and with the light shining on it. I just read the book.
Well, as an author, we all appreciate that. Speaking on behalf of my fellow authors, although I have to admit, I do a lot of my reading now on Kindles, particularly on airplanes. It's a lot easier to have two books on a Kindle when you're traveling for a week on business and read, rather than carrying two books with you in your carry-on luggage.
Yeah. So recently, about that, you've been on a business, well, in the last 6 months or so, you've been working with clients. So does this mean you went there physically? You did an in-person?
I've been doing more of that actually. I was
Hmm.
in, let's see, late June. I was in Dallas for a face-to-face with a client. I've done work with a different client in both San Antonio, Mexico City, face to face. A lot of it still, particularly coaching, still remains remote, which is fine. I think people are comfortable with that. You don't need to meet face to face for coaching and mentoring sessions, whether it's one on one or group coaching, which I do a lot of. But I'm seeing more and more consulting and even classroom type facilitation work
Hmm.
coming back. I'll be back in San Antonio, I think the first week of October, and then back in Mexico City for a client face to face, probably the second week of October. So yes, the other people I talk to, that it is certainly rebounding in that direction.
So I don't want you to name names, but is that a tech-oriented business in San Antonio?
The one in San Antonio is a technology company. It's a Fortune 500 leading
Good for you.
organization. The one in Dallas was, I guess, their technology and telecommunications, and again, a large organization.
So are they, with again, without divulging anything, I'm not interested in secrets, are they interested in this idea of people-centric?
Absolutely. Well, the one in Dallas, not as much, I'd say. The telecommunications company, not yet, but certainly the technology company out in San Antonio. Although interestingly, I'm actually doing a lot more sales facilitation, sales coaching for that part of the organization, for their sales organization. But that organization, yes, and they are a people focused company, a people centered company, pretty much. I mean, no one's perfect out there, and it's one of the reasons, like in the book, I don't name names, I don't pick companies to model, because quite frankly, no one's going to be perfect, and you can always find a fault with some person. Or I mean, look at Starbucks, for instance. I mean, Starbucks is a great model, but yeah, they've got the rough edges around them as well. Walmart, extremely great model. Costco takes great care of their people. But again, no one's perfect out there. So I don't name names either in the book. I just try and set a philosophy, a mindset that everybody. My book's not aimed for C-suite, quite frankly. It's really aimed for anyone who leads people. Whether you're a first-time supervisor, a manager, a team leader, you can follow the principles of Humany leadership, and you'll have better results. And quite frankly, I think you'll have a better personal career. So that you want to ask the question of what's in it for me. You follow this, your career will be better as a leader, as well as your organization that you're leading.
I'm on the outside. I'm just a happy talk show host, but I would imagine that this is a worldwide thing, not just US, but probably most of your action is in the US right now.
Well, I think, yeah, most of being based in Mexico City, which is in North America. A lot of people don't realize that, but this is still North America. But yeah, but one of the reasons I'm in Mexico City also is I see a huge opportunity for my kind of consultancy and coaching work in Latin America. But no, you see this across the board, whether it's in Europe, whether it's in Asia, Australia. I mean, look, globally, we found out how much we have in common. We've all gone through 2 years of lockdowns and pandemics and everything else, and we're all human beings at the end of the day. And the organizations that we're leading, I mean, the press talks about the Great Resignation and always quotes U.S. numbers, but the Great Resignation is happening in Australia. It's happening here in Mexico City. It's happening across Europe, across Asia. These are worldwide phenomenons, and the kind of mindsets and behaviors I talk about in the book are global. They can be implemented globally, again, on a team basis, all the way on up to an entrepreneur who's starting his business or her business, implementing these mindset skills and behaviors.
So let's jump back a little bit. About a year or so, we met Steve Cadigan, who's also an author. And the occasion for meeting him was that he wrote this book called Workquake, like an
Right.
earthquake, him being a Californian. So everybody thinks earthquake, but he called it Workquake. Now, briefly, this guy was the very first HR leader for LinkedIn Corporation a long time ago. But anyway, came on the program and he talked about the book, and you were there. And my ears were piqued because I never even thought of all this, but here it is. He was like crystal balling. And so take it from there. And he's now become your forward writer. Is that correct?
Yes, I mean I have a lot of respect for Steve. I mean we've had several back and forths over the last year. I admire the man. I admire his thinking, and so I actually asked him to write the forward to the book, and he wrote a very nice forward. Talking about the way I approached leadership, the way I did it from a non-academic standpoint, the way it's so relevant for today for leaders at any level. So, yeah, I think Steve's got a lot of great ideas. I mean, you talk about a thought leader. He's one of these people who has the actual on hands practice. As you say, he was the first chief HR officer at LinkedIn. Before that, he was in head of HR or senior HR positions in several other Silicon Valley companies. And I think people should listen to Steve. I think they should listen to the two Steves, me and him. So.
Yeah, that's cool. Okay, so let's do a deep dive into your book. If you could look at a couple of chapters that just sort of stand out in your memory, if you want to go that way, or just happenstance, pick a page, and give us and the audience out there a peek in and some insight into your organization of the massive information that you gathered and how you organize. I mean, first of all, talk about the item, and then how did you organize that into a chapter?
All right. Well, thanks, Ed. I mean, let me give the context for your audience. The reason I created the word humany, I coined the word. You won't find it in the dictionary yet, but it combines humanity, and harmony, and I did that to emphasize the leading of people and the need for work leaders to create workplaces of both wellness and harmony. And interesting, when I talk to people about harmony in the workplace, they scoff at me. They go, "What are you talking about? There's no such thing as harmony in the workplace." So that's the context behind everything. And I talk about how, some of the soft skills, as we used to call them pre-pandemic, were kind of nice to have. If you had time, if you had budget, you get trained in that. They're mandatory today. So I've opened up the book, and coincidentally, chapter 5 talks about dealing with uncertainty and ambiguity, and I believe that's one of the core leadership skill sets going forward. We're going to be in a world of uncertainty, of ambiguity, and interestingly, we measure leaders on their ability to create a plan and execute a plan. I think in today's world, we need to measure leaders on the ability to create plans A, B1 and B2, and maybe C1, C2, and C3, and adapt those plans when some event triggers something, because there's no way to predict the future. I mean, and those who don't do it, I mean, the airline industry, is just a disaster and has been for over a year now. They did not understand the plausible, what would I call it? The plausible fact of opportunity that people are going to fly again. And they did not bring their staff back in time. They did not bring their equipment back in time. They're canceling even right through the Labor Day weekend recently, thousands of flights canceled or delayed. They worked on predictions, and predictions in today's world are terrible. You have to work on plausibility, different scenarios. So I mean, I just talk about one of the most important leadership skills today is navigating uncertainty, navigating ambiguity.
So one of the things about the airlines training, they did a lousy job training the flight attendants on how to deal with people in a crisis, being forced to wear the masks. Now, it wasn't their job, but it was the government saying it, right? But they also, airlines didn't want to get sued from people who might get sick as a result of being so close to somebody else. So it was kind of a strange thing. Boy, I hated wearing the mask while flying. And I stopped flying. I stopped.
As some people did, but now people are back to flying. The other thing, they did not train the staff, as you're absolutely right, about being able to cope with upset passengers and anxiety. But also, I don't think they did a good job of training their staff to understand how to control stress, how to reduce anxiety, even in themselves. I mean, think about that. I mean, if you're a cabin crew staff member and you're flying, you're taking some physical health risks. And, a lot of their colleagues came down with COVID. And, then you start thinking about, oh my gosh, do I go to work today, or do I and risk getting COVID, or do I not go to work? Do I quit my job? And I think that added, and I think other companies should learn from that. Because as you say, today is September the 7th. We're 2 days after the Labor Day holiday. Many organizations are mandating that people come back to the office.
Yeah.
Those workers are facing the same stress that the cabin crew people faced a year ago. Do I go back to the office? Do I go back to the cubicle? Do I wear a mask in a meeting? Do I wear a mask in having a one-on-one with my boss, or do I not wear it? What risk am I taking? And not even me. I mean, as I mentioned, I was in San Antonio a few weeks ago. One of the ladies there wore her mask, and I didn't ask her. We just accepted it. And then she volunteered. She says, "Oh, by the way, I'm wearing my mask. Not that I don't trust you, but my husband is elderly and he has an autoimmune disease, and I don't want to bring anything home." And boy, total respect to her, but leaders have to understand this is what the people, our human workforce, and the key word is human. These are the issues our human workforce are dealing with. And this is why we need to lead people and not manage people, and help people deal with these stresses, and train them about burnout. So, yeah.
Well, this is really interesting. Thank you for this impromptu, working with me on an impromptu basis here. So let's look at another chapter. Pick one out that you like, that will further express what you try to do with this project.
Okay, well, coincidentally, I think we have some synchronicity here today, but I just opened up to chapter 12, which is called lifelong learning. And every chapter in the book starts with a quote. So this one is an interesting quote from Henry Adams, and he says, "They know enough who know how to learn." And this chapter is all about unlearning what we've learned, learning new things. I mean, my favorite philosopher is Yoda. And of course, Yoda once said, we have to unlearn what we've learned. What I say in the book, quite frankly, is that leaders need to unlearn management and relearn to be human. And as the first paragraph of this chapter says, one of my favorite and most repeated mantras is, never stop learning, because life never stops teaching. And I think that's another core philosophy of the book, is the need for continuous learning, having a growth mindset in the leader, but making sure that leader teaches, coaches, and mentors her or his people to have lifetime learning. Oh, there's another great book, a link.
Okay, so this is one of your older books, but this is like, I've had it now a couple of years. And, I sort of looked through, scan some pages here, but the cover and the way you tell the story and just the headline, this is the foundation for, look at all these pages. Where'd you get all these words?
It's in my DNA. My father was a fiction writer, a novelist, and short story writer. So I think it's in my blood, quite frankly. I'd like to tell people wait for the movie to come out, but I don't write the kind of books they're going to make movies about. That book was kind of a foundation for the new book in several ways, about the way we think, about the way we make decisions, the way we need to not let stress and anxiety impact our decision making. And the same thing here, part of my message, that leaders need to reduce workplace stress, reduce workplace anxiety, and help their people cope. And interesting, when I talk to people or give speeches on this topic, I often say to people, when I say the word human cost, what is the human cost of your work force? And they start saying, they'll throw out things like salary, overtime, medical benefits, vacation pay, annual bonuses. I said, yeah, that's true, but that's not what I'm talking about. The human cost. When you're asking people to work 10-hour days, 60-hour weeks, the cost is in their health, their mental health, their physical health, their emotional health. This is one of the reasons we have so much conflict in the workplace. I would love somebody to do a correlation of the number of hours that people work over the last 30 years and correlate that with workplace drama and workplace conflict, or even correlate it with heart disease and anxiety and stress, because stress is the number one medical negative impact influence in our world today. Stress impacts the heart, impacts the brain, impacts our blood circulation, impacts our lungs. And, you're asking people to work 60, 65, 70 hours a week. I mean, there's a story coming out of Australia just a few weeks ago that somebody unfortunately passed away, a young man working for Ernst and Young, or EY. And, because he was new in his job and, he kind of, I don't know the whole story, but he was working too many hours a week, actually collapsed and passed away in the office. And we need to get away from that.
Yeah.
We need more balance. That's not harmony. We need more harmony in our lives. We need more harmony in our workplace. 60-hour weeks are not harmonious to anybody.
So this is off the record, or not off the record. Here we are on live TV, but off the beaten path of what we should be talking about. But I was watching the news last night for a while, which could be a mistake these days.
Yeah.
But it was like, and what got to me was that there's people who are not as old as I am, or is less educated, or less able to communicate on a regular basis their feelings and how they're dealing with stress. And most of the problem on as the news stories, doesn't matter what channel, were women, because this week is back to school, and so many younger kids are actually afraid of getting shot, because in certain areas there are kids who are 7, 8 years old, and there they are on camera with the mother, and the question was, are you afraid of going back in the classroom? And so the little kid said, and the guy said, yeah. And so the interviewer said, how come? Says, well, this is in Uvalde, Texas. One of his friends got killed. Just as a little kid.
Yeah.
One of his friends got killed, and I don't want to die. I love my family, and I'd rather be home. So I'm not saying this to gather emotion here, but I am saying it because mostly women in the workforce, whether it's remote or in person, they have to deal with these things in spades. And here you have some manager who maybe doesn't have kids or is just off in space somewhere and doesn't adjust and doesn't know what to do. So how are you translating to that person? Because I know you're not an intellectual academic, but there's a lot of words in your book, and a lot of people can't process words the way you and I can.
Yeah. I think, a lot of that is that leaders have to adapt their leadership style, their leadership demands of the people that are working for them based on the individual situation. And, and yes, that's a sad commentary on where we are as a society, particularly the United States, but go to other countries where you don't have that, but you still have people, workers, humans who have responsibilities for elderly parents or homeschool. And so here's one of the key things I think coming out of the pandemic, and here's to me one of the ways a Humony leader is differentiated from a non-Humany leader, is that the Humany leader will understand that everyone on their team not just has a life outside work, but has responsibilities outside work. And we have to respect those responsibilities that they have. So, I remember when I worked for multinational companies, I mean, it was also almost wrong to say, I'm going to take a couple hours off to go do a personal errand, or I'm going to take my father to the doctor, and like on company time. Yeah, I'm taking 2 hours off, or I'm going to go to my kid's school play. It's like, why is your kids play in the afternoon? Why is it in the evening? I mean, you couldn't do that. You couldn't even talk about it. I think now people are accepting. And what's really nice is if the leaders don't accept that, and I'll be honest with you, some of the older leaders, like us, the baby boomer leaders, they don't understand that, but the younger peers do. So if you tell your peer, hey, I've got to go, I got to take my mom to the dentist tomorrow afternoon. Can you just let me know if anything comes up between 2 and 4? Go ahead, go do it. We understand that. If I have to call you, I'll call you on your phone. But if it's not an emergency, I'm not going to bother you. So the key thing here is not just that people have lives outside work, but people have responsibilities. And as leaders, we need to understand that and respect those responsibilities that they have as human beings, because everyone who works for us is also, not everyone, well, everyone who works for us is either a parent or a spouse or a friend or a sibling, or whatever it is, or they have societal, maybe they're coaching a sports team, maybe they're involved in their religious community, maybe they're involved in the animal shelter. It doesn't matter. They have responsibilities, and we need to respect that and work with them so that they can have flexibility to get their job done, but also meet those responsibilities.
And this goes right to your definition of humany, the harmony, get a life.
Yeah.
Is self-actualized here. So if you don't mind, if you go to the last chapter in that book,
okay.
and why is it the last chapter? First, identify what the title of the last chapter is, and then.
Well, this is going to sum up some of our The last chapter is, as you would expect in a non-fiction book, it's called The Benefits of Humany. So I kind of try and outline what the benefits, but the first paragraph is sort of what we're talking about. To create a better world, we must become better people, better leaders, and better people leaders. Humany leadership will help you evolve into a better person, a better leader, and people leader. You will become a leader who is admired, a leader who is trusted, a leader that people look to for motivation, coaching, and direction, and a leader destined for a rewarding and fulfilling leadership career. So, and that's a key part of my message in honesty, is that, look, yes, it'd be nice if a bunch of CEOs read this book and decide, okay, we're going to change from the top down. That's not going to happen. It may happen with a few people, hopefully, but it's not, not going to happen with all 500 of the Fortune 500 companies. But individually, it doesn't matter if you lead a small team of 3 or 4 people, you lead a department of 20, you lead a division of 200, you can have an impact by changing the way you lead. And that's all you can do, is impact and influence that little sphere of influence that you can, that you're responsible for.
So I know it's premature as we come to a close here, but looking ahead, what's next? Is it? I mean, you've been thinking about this for a long time already, I bet. But there's so much that goes into the development and the editing process, and then oh my God, it's coming out, it's here, and so what do you do next? Have you given it any thought yet?
I've got a couple ideas, I admit. I mean, obviously the next couple of months will be, promoting the book and hopefully, making talks about it and talking to organizations about it and coaching and mentoring people on it. But, I'll be honest with you, the last 60 days have been a whirlwind of publishing. Not only has this book come out, but I've helped my girlfriend, Adriana, to publish her new book. It gets released on Saturday this weekend, but we've actually printed some copies in Mexico City for events for her personal launch of the event. So yeah, I'll be honest, I really don't think I want to start writing for a few months, but yeah, come the Thanksgiving weekend, after I've had the Thanksgiving dinner, I typically sit down and go, okay, I got 3 days. What should I start writing? And that's probably the next time I'll really think about writing something longer than a blog or a magazine article. But I do have a couple ideas. It'll be probably about people leadership, I would suspect, in some way. We'll see.
Well, Stephen Howard, thanks very much. Your website?
The new website is going to be humanyleadership.com. It's not ready yet, but it'll be ready by the end of September. I'm working on that right now. So, but my main website is, I think you see my name on screen there. It's calienteleadership.com. Caliente, as many people know, means hot in Spanish, but the second definition is passionate. And I'm a little bit passionate about leadership, but also where I live in Palm Springs in California, the land is owned by the Agua Caliente band of Indians. So Agua being water, so the hot water or the spring water, if you will, band of Indians. So it's also my tribute to our Native American landholders. So that's Caliente. So CalienteLeadership.com is where you can find me, or on LinkedIn.
Thanks for being on Global TV Talk Show.
Thank you for having me, Ed. It was a lovely conversation. We should do it again.
Thank you very much. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.